On the first record, I was listening to one of the songs, Proud. I kind of felt a bit of Alanis Morissette. I don't know if that's, an inspiration for you, but I was going to ask you what are some of your inspirations and have been, because you've cited The Boss a couple times.
Mm-hmm. I mean, back on those early records, the record that you're mentioning, that was like 2000, so,
Yeah.
I mean, we were listening to, so much. We were just coming out of high school, so, we would have definitely been listening to a lot of, like, our parents' music, like, things like Bruce Springsteen or whatever, but,
Yeah.
We were really into, like, late 90s grunge and rock music. That's what we listened to, was, like, Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana and, Bikini Kill and, like, that kind of stuff, so nothing against Alanis personally. I don't listen to our early music and think that our influences are obvious in the sonics of what we were doing. Maybe our earlier stuff that obviously wasn't released as Tegan and Sara, like we had punk bands when we were teenagers and that sort of thing. But like I think ultimately, the only real common connection between like what I was listening to, what we write, what we do, what we're inspired by is like just great songwriting. I can really appreciate. Most of what I listen to like on my playlist now is like R&B and hip hop and electronic music, and like I very rarely like really like attach to anything that would be specific to our genre of music. I think that's a funny thing that maybe is unexpected for people. Like I think they're always imagining that, like I was just thinking this about Jack Johnson because we're on tour with him. Like we were talking about music the other night, and I was like, oh yeah, like I would assume that he would only listen to music that sounds like him, but it's ridiculous because most of the time it's actually couldn't be further from the truth. Like you are naturally drawn to things that are unlike what you do. So as long as it has a great song, great melody, it's inspiring to me. I feel really excited and not just like as a fan, like listen to a really good song and you think like you can relate to it or whatever. But as the artist part of my brain will be like, oh, that's interesting. How do they arrive at that melody, or what's that arrangement, or you're sort of deconstructing it from a more science part of your brain.
If you, I guess, said there, if you're always listening to things and taking inspiration from different things, are you always writing, even while you're on tour, even while you're producing another record, or thinking of songs?
Sarah and I don't do a ton of writing on the road. It's so tough. Like, you're constantly moving locations, especially in, like, Europe and North America. You spend most of your time on a bus, so it's not really conducive to writing, but certainly I think you are gathering. Like, both of us claim to not really listen to a ton of music while we're writing or while we're recording, but the rest of the year you're sort of picking up things, like, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, you are exploring. I think every year we expand our musical repertoire by listening to so much different stuff, and I think that it starts to leak into our music and inspire us. And like Sarah was saying, I think we gravitate towards things that don't sound like us, but then we pull things from that music and put it into our own music. So, and we've gotten better at doing that over the years, so you can start to hear our influences a bit more. And when you're young, like when we were 18 and 19 making records, we just sounded like whatever was coming out of us, so now there's a little more thought about it, which is probably why we try not to listen to too much music that sounds like us, because we don't want to just recycle the same ideas. Like, our plan and our hope, is to try to emulate and create sounds that come from different genres. So like Alligator is a great example of that. It's so different than anything we'd ever done, and it was so influenced by Sarah's exploration of like hip hop and R&B and mainstream pop music. And so it doesn't sound like any of those things, but there are elements of it that don't sound anything like what we've done before, and to me that's evolution.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that's also a little bit different. You've done it a couple of times before in some different cities. It's like this acoustic or like intimate gig that you're doing tonight at the Thornbury Theatre in Melbourne, and you're doing a Q&A as well. What's the intention with these ones? I guess just getting closer to fans as well, or giving them a different taste?
Just a different, it's definitely for fans, but it's also like for us too. Like, we don't want to get too used to doing the same thing over and over and over again, and we like from night to night, we might be like one night in the theater, one night in an amphitheater, one night in a club, that sort of thing. So we try to keep our skills as sharp as possible, and we want the sets to be versatile and dynamic, and we don't want people to feel like they're seeing the same show that they saw last time we were in town. And so we thought that since we're doing these big gigs with Jack Johnson, and some of our fans may not be as interested in seeing us in those types of venues, we thought we would offer something completely different, which is, a lot of the people that we've played for in Melbourne probably haven't seen us in a really small venue probably in years, so it just gives an opportunity for us to play a little differently and maybe not have as much of a show. Like, it's a little bit more relaxed, and just sort of do what we want to do and be a little bit more flexible with the set list. And instrumentation.
And you know this one's sold out,
Mm-hmm.
so it should be a pretty awesome show. Getting along to it as well. Are we going to hear any kind of covers or different new songs or maybe?
I mean, we're playing a few tracks like from earlier records that we've never played live before, or haven't played live in almost 8 or 9 years. So that's exciting. So there'll definitely be something for everybody tonight. We'll still do some rock stuff as well too, but there's gonna be lots of stuff. I don't know. Right now we're covering "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" with Jack Johnson, and I had a moment where I was like, maybe we should play that tonight because it's been really fun. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's mainly just gonna be like a few songs from every record, and then the Q&A, of course, is like super important to us because I love interacting with our fans, and you kind of like, I mean, it's funny, we've done it quite a bit this year, and they pretty much always ask the same questions, and the questions themselves kind of drive us crazy because they're like, what are your favorite Tegan and Sara songs? And it's like, oh, you know, it's so hard to pinpoint that, and who cares really, but they really want to know, and there's something about that, like when you take a step back and you're like, this is their opportunity to ask you that like question that's been burning inside of themselves, so it's kind of exciting to do that with them. So
If you had one question you want to be asked tonight, what would it be?
I mean, it's not that's a tough question too, because it's like
Yeah.
it's like I think the thing that's really interesting about interviews and dialogue with like fans and stuff like that is when it's unexpected, and when it's something that's very thoughtful and very personal from their perspective. And you know, part of what's challenging about doing press so much, like so often, like, you know, you hear, I think it's pretty like universal that most artists and most anybody being interviewed, like after about 10 interviews, you've done it. You've covered interviews, you
Answered
know?
all the questions.
That's it. And then it's like a welcome to your life. Like, that's what you do. And you're trying so hard. Like, it's like, you sound sort of ungrateful or like a bit of a jerk, but it is really hard to be inspired to answer the same questions thoughtfully or with some sort of inspired new twist on the same answer that, you know, any one person could go on the internet within 5 minutes, find answers to every single question that they want to ask you. And it can become exhausting because you're just like doing the same thing over and over and over again. So the thing that the Q&A sometimes do is like every once in a while you will get this real like zinger where you're just like, wow, what a cool way to, you know, put that, or what an interesting, thoughtful thing to ask, or whatever. So I mean, it's not that we hate these questions or anything, but it's true, like when someone says like, what's your favorite Tegan and Sara song? I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I don't ever sit down and listen to our music except from like a, you know, when we're like writing new music, like I'll get like, oh, this is really cool, like, you know, we just wrote some new material for this dance artist in the States, and they won't come out for months, you know, whatever. And like right now, like I'm like, oh, those are great songs, like, because I haven't had to talk about them or play the shit out of them or like think about them too much. But for the most part, like when someone asks me that question, I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, which songs make me not want to like pull my hair out every single night, or like which songs do I, you know, do I think are like reflective of like our band? Like, it's a really tough thing to, you know, to answer.